Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital Given. All right.
Yes. I'm good.
I'm awesome, thank you. This is B.
Hey. I said the name, she didn't stick.
Ubonga bot.
Dankie and E.
En E, ja, dat is E. Nie. Ken je niet Afrikaans nie?
Nope.
Ach nee.
Colonizers and
Ek vat
all
hom
of
hier
those
en los
things.
hom daar.
Dis een erns en nergens.
Het
Die hondblad.
ge. On the Viceres.
Die, what?
On the Viceres.
Oh, what's that?
Isn't it a teacher?
The teacher.
Oh, trappen van vergelijking. 10 voor een vriend. So we're speaking Afrikaans because I think the only black person I've ever seen in Orania is around. So we want you to feel at home.
I'm fine, Ashla. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. How was Orania?
It's great.
What are you doing there?
How's the rest of South Africa? Huh?
What are you doing there?
Went to visit my mates. What do you mean?
Your mates even.
Yes.
Did you vote in
Did I vote?
Orania?
I have to. It's my civic duty. Every 4 or 5 years.
In Orania. Were you the one?
I've got a lack of
The one EFF vote.
You guys want to talk about Orania for real?
I mean, we can just
Or is this chat?
we can hint on it.
Look, so obviously we spoke off camera, or given or saying off camera that for him personally, one of the most important sit downs he thinks I've done was the Orania, 2 of them. Joost Strydom, the CEO, it's called the Uitvoerende Hoof van Orania, and Karel Boshoff, who was the CEO before him. His father was one of the 3 co-founders of Orania as what it is today. I've been a fan of the Orania project for a long time, for reasons people don't understand. It's the idea of a group of people that for whatever reason, if you want to call it racist, if you want to call it cultural, religious, just felt like we want to go to our own place and do our own thing. And they did it and they've made it a success. And I think that's something really, really special. And one of the main reasons I wanted to go there, besides asking a lot of questions and filming content, was to figure out how can black people who already have townships and villages turn them into mini towns like you guys have. And I ended up having really great conversations. Got some fans in the Afrikaner community. So every time I go watch rugby, hey, I start Maniki van Orania. I'm like,
Maniki, they don't add the key.
No, they definitely add the key. Definitely.
Hoe kom is jy nie 'n man?
Oh, it's like a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
is it?
You're that
You're
boy
that
from.
little
You're
girl.
like, I don't take it in a condescending, patronizing.
I also
tone.
don't think it's condescending.
Yeah.
Is Nike batle key.
Yeah, you won't be invited to Orania.
Yabona nayo inkinga yami.
Azinkinga zakho.
Nayo ngeke ufunde kakhulu.
So I'm a big fan of rugby. I'm always in the spaces. It's quite nice. They see some of my content. Yeah, man, I enjoyed it, and I broke a lot of misconceptions that people had, which I thought was really great. And even Given had said that the number of white people that don't know what Orania is and how it's set up was quite humbling for me. I got a lot of DMs from white people, English, Afrikaans, white people who were like, oh my gosh, you went to Orania. How was it there? And I'm like, you're white. Why would you even... So that was really cool. Sadly for me, the mission that I was on, it wasn't for black people, but I was hoping black people would benefit from my trip. And the number of black people that have just fucking attacked me for that has been so...
Remember family friendly channel?
My apologies for the French. The number of people that have attacked me for that has really made me sad. Because imagine sending someone on an expedition to go and like understand a group of people you have issues with and try and maybe bring them closer, get them to, open up about something. And when you do it, you get attacked. You're like, I don't get it. You guys wanted me to go to Orania, swear at Afrikaans people, tell them they must jump off a cliff and I must get a good reception. And it doesn't make sense. So that made me sad. But outside of that, we had a good time. It was myself and a crew of 5 guys. We slept over there. They had a lekker braai for us. They hosted us. We went around the town. It was pretty awesome. And they said we must come back.
Have you ever watched the movie Get Out?
I did.
And you almost never.
This was an amazing documentary. Sorry?
You didn't like short circuit when they were offering you the food, or you didn't feel like, hey guys, what if this is an episode of Get Out in real time?
I'll tell you what was an episode of Get Out. Last year, it may have been last year, I was in Hermanus. That's where Marcus Joost is from. And literally a few days after I left, he took his life. The Steinhoff guy. So I was in Hermanus, and it was a business news conference.
Did you meet him?
No, I didn't meet him.
Okay.
It was a business news conference, and the number of old white rich people in the Western Cape that were there, with a handful of like black, myself, Musi Maimani, of course, some of the new members and leaders of Iposa, Nobuntu, Shazo Webster, and Ayanda Ali, and a couple of other black people. Like, that felt like Get Out. Because every old white person's coming up, hi, how are you? And I'm like, hey, don't talk to me. Don't shoot, hey. Obviously, I sent my location to all my people. It's like, say, if there's a jumper, please know where I'm at. That felt like Get Out. I actually said to Dumusi my money twice. And I asked him twice if he's seen the movie. And both times he said no. And I was just like, what? I think I asked. Herman Mashaba as well. But anyways, I don't know if we must speak about Get Out quickly. Or it doesn't matter.
I think people...
So for most people that don't know Get Out is this movie, Jordan Peele, shout out to him. Mm-hmm. It's become a cult classic immediately. Daniel Kaluuya is the lead, and it's the story of this old couple, white couple, who figured out how to do a brain transplant so that you can keep your body but get someone else's brain in there. And as the world is changing, they were like, look, BEE, progressive forces, everything looks like it's going black. So what if we get like young, black, strong bodies, and then we put our old white brains in there? And the reason I'd ask Umusino Herman is because Get Out is obviously like a movie, and we don't know if it's real. But there's a metaphoric, symbolic aspect of young black leaders, political, business, or otherwise, who are pushing old white agendas without realizing it. So those old white people have kind of colonized your brain to make sure that you're like, no, but guys, you can't do that. Human rights. What about private property? You're like, what? You sound like you're defending white supremacy. So yeah, that's the movie.
And the truth is, Jordan Peele did like a really good job, because even without the metaphorical term, it's a good movie on its own.
Yeah.
And then if you're like really sitting and like listening to it or watching it, you're also like, damn. It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. Very. And it talks about the sunken place, being like a place where you're so disillusioned with reality of, the reality of black people, the reality of, it's lovely.
Jordan is just on a lane of his own. Yes.
You've watched these movies?
Yes. The only one I haven't watched is the one with aliens. Nope.
Yeah. I've seen all three of his.
This is us. Is it This Is Us or just us?
Us.
What's the metaphor? What's the metaphor behind that one?
Have you seen it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I couldn't get it. I've got
a bad habit now, where when I watch intellectually stimulating movies, right after I jump straight on YouTube.
Same here.
Because there's reviews, there's trailers, there's Easter eggs, there's unpacking of like the deeper meanings. There's like a theme, Hands Across America, and your alter ego, and all these concepts. If you ever go on YouTube and check it out, it's deep. All these movies are deep. And a lot of social commentary, especially things that are kind of trending right now.
I really struggled with Us. I was like, what the hell is this movie talking about?
With regards to some of, let me say, abstract films such as Us, there are people like Jordan Peele usually with films like that aren't necessarily focused on like one theme that you should walk away with. There's a lot of things that people have discerned from the film, right? Yes. So, for example, there's a conversation around the marginalized within America, the ones that aren't allowed or able to participate in the greater economy, the ones that aren't as well represented, because it's about the people that live underneath, exactly,
being a replica
now coming up, which is why you see a lot of opulent people being attacked in the film. And it's not just a person living in I don't know, poor places in America. Is Michigan
Harlem?
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not just people living in those areas. It's all of that is happening in the opulent. People who have canoes, people who, things like that. Yeah. So that's one of the interpretations I've heard online. Yeah. But I know people have a lot of different elements that they pick up from the film, but it is meant to be an abstract film. So which means there's a lot you can take from it.
You can take from it. Guys,
Yes.
we're definitely not talking about movies, but can we just get into one?
Happy with Orania? We can shut it down.
With Orania, are we happy? We actually invited you to talk about business, but we can chat about anything.
I know you want to speak about a movie, but I just want to make sure we close off the topic before we move on. That's what I was asking. You want to speak about Orania, or you just
tell us
it's
about
just for
your most
chats?
important thing, the most important lesson.
You
If
wanted
we're
to
going
say in Orania?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to talk about that movie? Okay. We are all victims of conditioning and socialization. And very few people will ever get to a point where their minds get broken or they break their minds and they're forced to rewire their minds to ingest the world in a different way. And for some of us who have gone through that, whether you grew up in a white neighborhood, you've struggled with identity, you've had a mental breakdown, you've read some books, you've met some people that blew your mind. I once had a car breakdown on my way to Newcastle, and all these cars went past except for this young Afrikaans farmer boy. He was the only one that stopped to help me. He refused to get money from me, and I grew up with Afrikaners, so I don't mind, but I could imagine if I was a racist, pro-black person, what that moment would have done for me. To be like, okay, I think I need to reassess. So I go into these spaces and I sit with these people to get a better understanding of where their heads are at, where they were maybe misled, or where they're actually right and we can learn something from them. So Orania was that. Orania was great, but it wasn't what I was looking for. Because to be fully honest, I was hoping to find a racist white town. That's actually what I wanted. And I still crave that.
That's interesting.
There's a place called Philadelphia Ark, run by a white farmer called Wim Dirk. I think they're racist.
Yes.
They get a lot of poor white people that come in there to come and settle and work on the farm. There's another place which is arguably white racist as well called Kleinfontein. If I could get into those spaces and speak to them, and what I'd want to speak to them about is, are you racist? And they say yes. And I'm like, please take me through it. It's a safe space. I'm trying to get into your head because you might have valid reasons. Or maybe there's somewhere where you are lied to, so I can be like, okay, so these are all the reasons you don't like black people. Have you considered this? And try and get into their minds because they're victims of conditioning and victims of living in enclosed spaces. Trevor Noah has gone on a platform to say prejudice doesn't hold up well against contact. What that means is you find a lot of people that are anti other groups, just haven't spent time with people in those groups. I hate people from Nigeria, they drug dealers, they must go back. I'm like, go spend some time with some Nigerian guys. Just spend a whole day, watch them stress about their kids, see the police harass them, watch them cry as they call their mom, like, yo, I miss you so much. And you're like, hey, this guy is a human. But he also sells drugs. And you're like, it's not as black and white as I thought.
All of a sudden you like Jollof.
All of a sudden you like Jollof. So I'm on that journey. And Orania was that. But I also understand that what Orania is going through now is they're going through a marketing branding process. I didn't want to be a part of that. I wanted to have a conversation about something else, but I don't mind that happened as well. They've set up their own bank. They've almost gone fully off-grid in terms of energy. They get their own water. They've built their own school, even as an online component. When we were there, they were building their own rugby fields. They've got their own media, their own newspaper. They've got Miss Orania. How to build a country, 101. You go there and you're like, oh, snap. So this is how you get to like a rural piece of land and build civilization from scratch. This is so cool. I wish everyone was learning this. Because Otaki do the opposite. When things start falling apart, they flee. They don't build. They don't say, hey, here's a school. Let's see if we can turn it into the best school in the country. Here's a piece of land. How do we take Soweto and maybe even build borders around it? And then every Sowetan has their own card to get in and out. We get to choose who gets to run the economy here. And even the tourists need to get like some kind of permit to come in here because there's something valuable. those lessons. But I enjoyed it. It was great. I didn't know that it's not enclosed. Most people think you have to like get in. There's no getting in. It's a town. Just drive into it. There's no passport. Even the idea of their currency is another misleading concept. What they've done, and they're not the only ones, there are many such concepts around the world. We decide amongst us here that we want to keep money circulating here. Don't buy from anyone else but us. So we say, take your rands, put them in the bank, and then we give you like a figure. And then we create like monopoly vouchers. And that's all we're buying from in this town, so that our money never leaves.
Currency, though.
Sorry?
Isn't that your own currency?
No.
Officially, it's not a currency. You can't use it anywhere. It's not.
Does it look like a note? What does it look like?
There's notes, and they're going into crypto as well. The idea is just this. Again, these are the lessons that people should be learning. How do we keep money here so that we're not sending money out? Or you get money from bus, and then it's out to an Indian, to a Pakistani, to a Chinese guy, to a white guy. It's gone. But if black people were forced to only use certain currencies, the only way you can make money is if you buy using this. Even if white people come into your kasi, they first need to convert into your little voucher system so that you can keep money circulating. It's a currency in inverted commas, but when people like to have their own currency, it's not a currency in the real sense. It's just a voucher. So it's like going to an arcade.
Thank you. Yes,
when you go to an arcade and then you get tokens, or you go into a casino,
that's exactly
and you get
what
chips.
It is.
It's literally that, Uti. You have to use these chips here. And then when you leave here, you cash them out. That's all. But you're going to leave real money. You're going to come in, leave real money. You're going to chow all your chips, your money, and then you're going to leave. So it's that concept to them. And I think it's really dope.
Everybody in Southern had something to learn from that Orania. Even if it was snippets. I didn't watch the whole thing, I'll be honest. But I did catch bits of it.
Sure.
And I was just like, damn, you are really, really doing something really great there, Daniel. Okay.
One of my superpowers is I have an ability to learn from everyone, including people I really, really dislike. And I think one of the reasons so many people struggle to get ahead in life is they only want to learn from people they like. And that becomes limiting. So if that's how you move, you're never gonna be able to extract the greatness of things. For me.
Peele, you put up something the other day. We actually, the idea was to chat about business.
We can. Yeah. I'm happy to chat about business.
Okay. There was a day you put up something recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on your Instagram stories. You spoke about some of the traumas that you have from business failures and how it navigates, how you move now. I know it's a complete tangent from Orania. Orania was supposed to be a high. How was Orania? Then we went into movies and whatnot, but maybe just picking up from here.
Sure.
Let's get into the business side of things, into failing, maybe you can just share your story with us.
I don't know if I want to speak about my business failures today. I'm going to say this. I sat down with DJ Sbu on the Hustlers Corner.
This one is a gotta show ya. One trader.
If I may, please, may I please ask to speak about... I was on the Hustlers Corner with DJ Sbu recently, and one of the things I said, and it became the caption or the title of the sit down, was Small Business is a Scam. I never got to expand on that. Maybe I'll expand on it on another day because people caught feelings. And that was not my aim. What ended up happening with that sit down is when I ended up speaking about a lot of businesses in this country, small businesses, courier, speaking about how people can use social media to market their businesses, etc. I spoke about Stockvels and I spoke about solutions. I think maybe that's what I want to say. There's decolonization that needs to happen on the African continent. And many people don't know what decolonization actually means. For me, decolonization means taking away some of the oppressive British systems that were forced on us and changing them for systems that either were African or that are just progressive in how we can move forward. And if we can implement this in business, I think we'll get very far. The concept of Stockvels is one of them. We're still not using Stockvels the way we should. One of the people was speaking about off camera was and if you look at Dragon's Den as a concept, I said to Usbu, imagine churches. I spoke about Stockvels with Mama, but also churches that you've got the building fund, you've got free will, Imaliam Fundis, etc. And then you have like a business.
Free will. What's free will?
at church, free will offering.
Oh, free will offering. Okay.
Yes.
You haven't been to church now.
Have you been to church?
You haven't been to church.
I'm just trying to figure out.
Free will.
You've never heard of a free will offering?
It's just offering.
We know it is just offering.
A free will. Maybe at Penulism Church, but anyways, please continue.
Shots. Have a good time. Have a good time. Are you having a good time? Are you having a good time? You're not having a good time.
Sorry.
Okay, you're have a good time.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. So if you could have like a tithing mechanism where it's also for businesses within the church, and then you have whoever's selected in the church to sit, and just like Dragon's Den or Mama or the taxi industry, they sit and maybe you document where kids literally come and pitch for money. This becomes part of the solutions with money that we already have. I spoke about our phones. I do social media marketing now, so people come with their posters. I'm like, we're sleeping on just small things like that. Those are things I'm passionate about. Those are things that are going to create the type of culture that I think South Africans need. And when I started my business journey, those were some of the things I was hoping to pilot. My business crashed. I was miserable. I was depressed. I had to refine myself. But I was trying to get onto that trajectory. How do we use Stockvels to accelerate our businesses? How do we use technology? And how do we decolonize how we use business so that it works for us? Oh, mama, but daisi nyama entrogo, people that sell amakota, that's all a form of decolonize. But how do we take those models, maybe use technology and then make them work for us? Because what happens is a lot of these big businesses come and they just completely steamroll us. And then small businesses can never grow because of that. And we're just fine with the crumbs and fighting amongst each other because there are people at the top that don't want us to compete.
I wonder, firstly, first question, do you think, Uguti, people's approach to business and entrepreneurship should be for me, I'm in it for me, I want to get the money, or is it more effective when people build as a collective? So just to give context as to why I'm asking that, because if I look at the concept, just basic, capitalism literally means, Guti, in order for you to thrive within it, you have to have capital. Yeah. But those who are on the ground don't have capital. So it only makes sense what you're proposing right now, Uguti. You bring your resources together, and then that's how you then are able to compete with those who have endless amount of capital. Yeah. So you bring the little that you have, and then like a church would, which for me, I also have an issue with why our churches aren't strengthening our people beyond just spiritual issues, but also teaching them the basics of business, because that's part of building the community. Yeah. Also, there's nothing restricting churches from doing so. The Bible doesn't disagree with teaching people how to fish, make tents, etc., etc. So I'm curious as to, do you believe in the power of the individual, what we've become now, where I am building my wealth, unlike the other communities, which I would, such as the Indian community, where in a lot of cases you find that it's our wealth, right? They're very community-based. Which do you think is more effective?
You're asking a rhetorical question, man. So your question was, what should?
Yes.
Most of the issues that we have are systematic. And because of the systems that we have, which again goes to the decolonization conversation, are designed specifically for the black child to only win generally if they become individuals. You want to be a pick-me in business, first black CEO, the chosen what, we're not incentivized by the system to be like...
pick me in business. I love that.
We're not incentivized in business to be like, you will get a job if you can bring 4 of your family members to this company. It's like, no, you must beat everyone else to get in. You will not get funding. And look, maybe part of countering it, again, decolonization was government trying with the whole co-op thing. Don't come and ask for funding by yourself. Set up a co-op, and we'll give you like 100,000 Rand grant. Unfortunately, people were not trained properly in what that was meant to do. So they just get Ursula and Wong and yourself and just, guys, please give me your IDs. And then I go get money on my own.
That's true.
But the idea was to try and incentivize group thinking in business. But the systems we have don't do that. I need to give a shout out. There are a lot of churches that I know personally where there are young people who are professionals who host financial literacy classes, who try. It's just not on a large scale, sadly. What should be happening is we should be changing our culture. Totally. Our culture is what's keeping us from thriving in business. And what I mean by culture is everything around how specifically Black people and poor Black people live is anti what it takes to succeed. We don't talk about money at the dinner table. Sadly, for most of us, we don't sit together at a dinner table or talk anyways. The type of content we consume or the content that's curated for us to watch is not geared towards teaching kids. Like, I love that show. You remember that family that came from nothing and they all work together? Our family is about crime. There's heists, there's selling drugs, and that's how they become rich. There's tenders, etc. We don't have a culture of business and selling, which some of these other groups have. And that culture then is embedded in the church. Because the Jewish community, it's the synagogue. The Islamic community, it's the mosque. Where by the time they work as a collective. These conversations are being held. Tina, your conversations is you're just going to pray. You're a prayer warrior. We're hoping Ganyako will get the job. It's not, can we come together at church like we used to when we were fighting against apartheid and build stuff? Do we have business Tuesdays? Do we have, Mama Stockvels, they meet at church on Fridays to be like, how are our investments looking? Mm-hmm. The whole culture is not like that. And when you do that, you bring your kids along. And where did you learn how to sing? How to be a public speaker? How to read? In church. Where did you learn business? No, somewhere else. It wasn't at home. It wasn't at church. It wasn't on social media. It wasn't in spaces where it's meant to be second nature. And even like when I leave school, when I leave school for the normal child, I'm not going to like a business to work there. Some of the most successful Black entrepreneurs I know became successful because from a young age they had to sell. So they started a new culture from a young age. It was survivalist, whatever, but it became a culture. Now imagine having this just as a family. When you guys gather, yes, you talk about what, but it's like, but what are you busy with? How's that business going? How's your Uber business? Have you considered this? I've got an accountant. We need to change the culture. But the reality is the systems we have currently don't reward the community thing. You actually, as a Black person, are measured. Your measure of success is how far ahead of your family or your community you are.
Yeah.
Whereas with other communities, if you're in those communities, it's not so much that guy, it's that family.
Yes.
That family is doing well. There aren't a lot of really stupid example, the Guptas. We call them the Guptas.
Yes.
As a collective.
Yes.
You know, Johan Rupert speaks about his dad. Now his son is his proxy. Yanni Mouton, same. The Oppenheimers are family.
Yeah.
Ernest, Harry, Nikki, Jonathan is going to be taking over. It's a family thing. And for Taki, the people we were meant to be looking up to would be Omaponya, the Gunene family, arguably the Mutsipes. They are families that are doing. So the should be is we need to change the culture in our families and our spaces.
It actually makes me wonder. Have you ever done Mkholiso?
He's pointing at me. Yes, I have. I'm currently in 2 Mkholisos.
Right, Bonga, yes. Have you ever done Mkholiso?
No.
You've never done it. So it actually is making me think what you're saying right now, right? The whole passing from one generation to another. I wonder if it's that issue, Uguti, our parents, for whatever context they were in, had Mkholiso, they had Ama Society, they had Ama Stockvels for that time. And they used it for survival, and it did for them what it did. And guys, I think we shouldn't underestimate like the power of Stockvels, that even now banks have recognized it. There are Stockvels accounts that actually exist. I think there's a lot of credit for that. But now the reason that I'm asking you guys about it, because I have colleagues that do it at work, and I've never worked at a place where, particularly women, with a few men here and there, also join the women in Mkholiso. But that's what they passed on to us. Like just that thought of Uguti, while the other communities are passing wealth building, we are using our parents' survival tactics, right? They weren't thinking, they were in a period where they weren't able to use wealth building mechanisms, right? And then, Tina, we're continuing the very same thing that can only help you to buy the TV, the couch, the this, the that.
It's interesting you say that because my one Stockvels group is named after my friend's mother's Stockvels group. She said, guys, my mom had this group.
Hey.
And I think, and we named it literally after her mom's Stockvels group. So I hear what you're saying. Like, these are the things that were inherited, that were passed down.
Yes.
And, how can we redesign what we're sharing and what we're passing down? But speaking of that, how, you're speaking of, there needs to be change in the culture. What does that look like? What does it look like to change the culture?
Such a deep question. Before I try to attempt that really deep question, Absa Bank, which is the biggest retail bank, last I checked in South Africa, part of it was born from a Stockvels model. Afrikaans people, again, going back to Orania now. Volkskas was the bank they set up, starting off as a mutual bank, just like what VBS was meant to be later on in life. Volkskas amalgamated with 3 other banks, and then they became the Amalgamated Banks of South Africa, which is what Absa stands for, or used to stand for. In Orania, they have that. They still have that Stockvels model, and they've now turned it into a mutual bank. And at some point, they want to try and get a retail license. Old Mutual started with like 20 people, I think in the Cape, also bringing money together in a Stockvels and then graduating to something else. The idea is to take this small thing and to take it to the next level. The Japanese, I think, call it Kaizen. Constant improvement. With OTAC, it's like once I've survived, it's enough.
Yeah.
We don't think scaling beyond. The few people that have done that, and I need to give them a shout out. There's an amazing book called Banker for the Poor by Professor Mohammed Yunus. And he speaks about Grameen Bank, which is $1 billion bank today. He's won a Nobel Prize for it because he started with seeing this Stockvels model, finding small groups of women that are traders that make things with their hands in Bangladesh and giving them money for them to be able to go and buy stock and the more you borrow, the more you pay well, he'd give you more money. And then they'd scale from there. In South Africa, we've got, I'm giving them shout outs now, Dutuko Shezi, who took the Stockvels model and he turned it into a company where people can buy shares in livestock, cows, in macadamia nut trees, in beehives, as a Stockvels. And there's a couple of others, I think. Just the Stockvels model and what we could do with it and take it to the next level. We take our money as Otaki, like South Africa, and we put it in either through pension, goes to the PIC, we put it in these big companies, and then these companies won't even loan us the money back.
Ish.
And that becomes a problem when it's actually our money. And imagine if you had access to that money and you could be able to make the decisions on how it gets spent. How do we change the culture? The people who are aware of what it takes need to create more content. Nicolette Mashile, Financial Fitness Bunny, has done a lot of amazing work there. There's a whole lot of other people. It's just...
I think she's just Financial Bunny.
No.
Or was it always fitness?
Yeah, this fitness
Financial
is-
Fitness
Financial
Bunny.
Fitness Bunny.
Oh,
Financial
my bad.
Fitness
I always
Bunny,
thought it
yeah.
was just Financial Bunny.
Nothing
My
wrong.
bad.
I'm trying to figure out how to answer you because I want to come up with a smart answer and I'm struggling.
That's
There are a lot of really good content creators for money. Tax advice. There are young people that are writing books
Yeah.
on property, but people don't want to consume. So do we maybe take their content and force it into the school curriculum and syllabus? Do we infiltrate government and make kids travel to certain spaces? Do we force all schools to have entrepreneurship day and it becomes part of what you need to pass? So you must pass 2 languages and you must have shown that you've run businesses over however many years and change the systems would be the way to change culture. Because outside of that, some of the solutions are there, but people just don't gravitate towards them.
Guys, we've spoken a lot about using the church, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
In order to, do, and you said, shout out to some churches that, my church is definitely one of them. We've got like biz plenaries and things like that. So it's like basically these conferences where business people come and they network who are in the church and whatever. And so there are churches that are doing great things, but I'm very interested as to why when it comes to Black people and Black culture, there's always a religion that is tied to how we navigate and we move through. And I think it speaks a lot to how we move through, because there's a religion element to, I don't know, or like a spirituality element that, is a ceiling almost for Black people. So as you were saying, we never think of scaling up, right? And I'm thinking there was this guy who was like a tour guide who spoke of the religions that succeeded are the ones that managed to build here and the now versus those that plan to build for the future. And as in, so you're looking to heaven or you're looking to be an ancestor where these material things don't matter. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you guys get what I'm saying? Am I rambling?
Yeah. No, we hear you.
Do you think our thinking of like things will be better in the next life, things will be better in heaven, things will be better when I'm an ancestor, do you think that weighs heavy on how Black people navigate this earth right now?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Asking.
It's a fact, and it makes me sad because you and I will watch the same movie. And after watching the movie, I'll be like, oh my gosh, that guy built such an amazing business. And you'll be like, yo, but his wife's shoes were so cute. Oh my gosh, did you see her shoes? And I'm like, what? The same Bible, I think Given made an example. People will admire the Jesus character, but there's like boss people there like Solomon. There's boss people like Job. Well, before like he lost his wealth at some point. There were people that were wealthy and they were great. And it's like the people that preach are not preaching that people must aspire to that. It's like, no, focus on the meek shall inherit the earth. Focus on, you will find your wealth in heaven. And you're like, I don't get it. I don't get how we can read the same book, watch the same movie, and we have a different takeout. And you have to start thinking that, or you have to start believing the conspiracies that maybe it's engineered to be like that. I consume a lot of Islamic leaders and preachers, imams. I listen to a lot of rabbis. One of them is Rabbi Manis Friedman. There's a channel called Living L'Chaim. I forgot what it used to be called before. Kosher Money is what it was called before. And Rabbi Manis Friedman, to what you were saying about spirituality, speaks about the spirituality of money. I've said, I was on Podcast and Chill 2 years ago, and I said the relationship Black people have with money is a traumatic one because we didn't choose to get into money. It was forced onto us. We were living agrarian lives. We were told we have to pay tax, you need money. And then our fathers and grandfathers started moving to the mines and those spaces to go and get this money. But the money we were getting paid was minimal. Today, when you speak money, you think debit orders. You think I don't have enough. You think credit. So there's a traumatic relationship. For other people, and specifically what Rabbi Manis Friedman was speaking about, money is a life for a life. It's time for time. If you want my time, I want a piece of your time, and it must be fair value. Someone came and gave us this concept and they didn't teach us how it works. Because if they did, you'd be like, no, don't pay me in money. Give me a house. No, I want 5 cows. I don't want cash because I realize how you guys play games with it. Inflation and interest. I don't want that. I want you to give me what I feel is fair. But because we never got to understand the spirituality of it, the people that understand will ask you, what do you think you want? And if you're a person that has an inferior mind, because of however you come from apartheid and colonization, you'll be like, oh, 5,000 Rand. And he'll be like, cool. And he'll go make 500,000 Rand off your song or off your art or off whatever, because he understands that this is bigger than, he goes beyond. And I've said before that I think for poor people in particular, not just Black, if we could take it a step back and go back to bartering, I think by the time money comes, we'll have a much more educated conversation. Because if we're bartering, if I'm going to spend 12 months of my life serving you, I need to show something. Because it takes 4 months to build a house. I've worked for 12 months, I don't even have a house. You're telling me to have a house, I must work for 20 years. That doesn't make sense in my head. So I'll go work for you. I need you to give me a piece of land. I need you to give me cement and bricks. And then give me labor, and I'll build my own house. And I'll have a house by the end of the year. But this thing of you saying I must have a pay slip and take a loan from a bank and then pay it off over 20 years and I'm going to end up paying double. I don't want that type of system. So that's the issue that we have. And because we don't understand money and the spirituality of it, etc., we just find ourselves in this situation that we're in now. And the people that understand it inevitably end up exploiting the ones that don't.
I like the example of, having watched the same movie but getting different concepts out of it. Because I think there's that book, that shares like biblical principles around making money, richest man in Babylon.
Yes.
And it's really about the concept of making money, but using biblical principles. But how many times is that highlighted? So it's once again same movie, different outcome.
Yes.
And is it not designed? The version of the movie that we've been given, is it not designed to help to make us focus on the shoes?
Sure.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
I wanna add this point. My apologies if I'm interrupting.
No.
One of the things we also need to learn is how to create and read and manage financial statements if we want to carry on playing this game. And that also becomes a culture. We go to school and we do maths. There are kids learning how to code today, but people don't understand financial statements. And it is stupid to invest in a business that doesn't have financial statements or keep them. And it's one of the reasons those of us who have a little bit of money can't invest in small businesses. We'd love to, but I don't know what I'm investing in. Because you're not every month showing me a report of this is how much I made, this is where my money went. And we spoke about generational things. That's meant to be one of the things we're meant to be giving back to our families. Many of us come from families where our moms, dads ran businesses, owned taxis. It could be a church, and you went to schools. Like, what have you done with that education? Mm-hmm. Have you gone back to help them formalize, build systems? Do you know how to raise funding? And we're not doing it. I just wanted to add that part. My apologies. That financial statements, because there was something I wanted to add to Kevin's question where what should be, and the community aspect, poor people, specifically poor Black people in this instance, can't work together because there's a lack of trust. And the reason we'll invest in Old Mutual and we'll buy shares is because there's trust. And the reason there's trust is because there are these financial statements and these systems of transparency that we get to see. Yes, they get cooked and manipulated, but generally you can see what's happening. Mind you, if you're investing 5,000 Rand in someone's car wash, you're hoping and praying. So you'd rather not. You'd rather put that 5,000 in like a fixed deposit. So we need to fix that as part of the solutions on
what is it that we need to fix, that people need to be less risk averse? What is it that, how do we fix that?
The learning?
How do we fix that? How do we fix people feeling, more confident about putting their only 5,000 Rand in a car wash versus putting it into, a trusted Old Mutual? We love you, Old Mutual, but
Yeah. I'm going to give a very weird answer. There's an amazing movie called Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks. The movie is about a scam artist. This boy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, Frank Abagnale, who ended up being a legend. I think he works in fraud or something now. He was creating fake checks. At some point, he pretended to be a doctor, a medical doctor. At some point, he pretended to be a lawyer. At some point, he pretended to be a pilot, and he flew across America. My big takeaway from that movie was reality versus perception, illusion. What does it take to get people to trust you? Must I wear a white coat and have a stethoscope around my neck? And I'm like, oh, I'm Dr. Mlocho. And you're like, oh, but you can see Mos. He's a doctor. Must I rock up in a Ferrari and there's big guys wearing suits to be like, hey, I think this guy's an important person. A similar thing happens with money, because whether it's a big business or a small one, a lot of it is perception. And you need to, not like a scam artist, but there's something you can learn from them. You need to figure out what is the scam I need to sell to get people to give me this money and maybe to keep giving me the money. So the car wash guy, how is he going to get 5,000? He's not Old Mutual. He doesn't have like reputation. He's not all those things, but can he use other things? Other things could be going to the school that he went to. Everyone knows him there, so they can fundraise. Using his mom. His mom knows people, so she can fundraise. And then building systems around that so that the mom ends up being the person to say, you invested in my son, you guys trust me and we move. We don't leverage our social capital as much as we should. And after you've leveraged social capital, then you create the formal systems around it. And how you also scam people in inverted commas is you have to give them something back. The reason you'll keep investing in the stock market is because you earn dividends. It's a scam, but it keeps you going. And you hope that it will grow. And if your shares grow and if you end up making money, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't trust this thing, but I've got money now and I'll keep doing it. And the day you lose money, you're like, well, I've made more than I've lost. So I can trust that this thing is legit. And then visual goes a long way. I'm investing in a car wash. Can I please see it? Can I see you washing cars? I sat with an amazing property entrepreneur called Usfiso Madondo, and one of the things he said was a lesson he learned is people are more likely to help you push a car if you start pushing it by yourself versus just standing there and saying, please help me push. So if you start washing cars, just start washing cars and people see you don't have a business, you haven't asked for funding and you wash and people say, I'll say, I want to share. Number one, they give you funding by paying you. Number two, you're like, shorter like dishwashing liquid, shorter vacuum cleaner. Now you're actually, people can see what you're doing and they're willing to invest in that. And if every time they give you a bit of money, you give them, I'll give you 10 free car washes. I think that builds credibility. And credibility is huge in business. That's the other thing. Even when you fail, I think that's another lesson or you need to learn. Even when you fail, tell us what happened. We want to trust you again. And we are very forgiving people, by the way. Tell us, your drip, you've been liquidated, things are not going well. You're like, we love you, we've been speaking. Just, bro, go on a thing and be like, guys, I just want to tell you the story of what happened. And we listen, we're like, okay, we're not sure. Hey, when I got divorce. But we're listening. Did it have something to do with you are not providing for your kids? What? Just address us. After that, we'll listen. You're like, when this guy wants to have another venture, I heard his story. I'd like to give him more money. And sometimes being brutally honest, like, guys, I chowed the money. Hey, I thought I'd arrive. Being said to buy, no sis, you guys saw almost. And guys, I failed. I crashed. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for letting you down. But in the future, this is how I'm going to ensure that it doesn't happen again. What I wasn't doing is maybe I wasn't showing you guys the financials. So every 6 months, next time, I'm going to do it like this. People will put their money back in. Tina, we fail and then we hide. And then we hope people will forgive us. People don't trust you thereafter.
Yeah.
They really don't.
And then off camera, we spoke about, or you mentioned how you're not going to tiptoe around issues and be gentle to us as Black people, right?
I said that.
Was that
yes,
off camera?
you did. It was
it off camera?
Yeah. And
so
then
dangerous where this is going.
And then, so I'm hearing, was speaking about the ceiling, maybe being the fact that as Black people, I think there's a better afterlife. So I shouldn't be after these things, these worldly things, right?
It's devilish.
And then, but then there's this mindset of mine, and I'm sure some people listening to this will think the same, to say, I feel like Black people have to focus so much on surviving that they don't have the luxury to chase some of these things. For example, I'll just give an example with me. I'm in the better spectrum, I think, of life in terms of context. But I, for example, have to be out of the house by 5 o'clock to get taxis to work, like 3 taxis. And then I only come back home around 8 o'clock. That's when I'm at home. Traveling, I spend a lot of time in transit. So what do you say to someone like that? Like, what can I really pursue? Because the bulk of the time I'm at work, or I'm traveling. So there are people who can say, okay, we do this channel, cool, but there are people who are in worse context than mine, who I think may think of business pursuing business as a luxury, right? I need to feed myself now.
Your question now,
and unfortunately, the business chasing those investors, I don't have that time. I don't have that luxury. I also don't have anything to fall back on. I don't have anyone who's going to feed me or feed my people should I chase these things, you know? So what do you guys think about that?
No, it's very valid, man. And it's very sad that this is the situation we have. If we could learn to decolonize and use community, all our problems would be solved. I know so many people who are struggling to get jobs, business opportunities, who have a cousin or an uncle who's rich.
Imagine.
Like, they know someone in their family who's well off or who's working somewhere. And one of my questions is, why can you not get this person to get you a job or to give you money? Maybe you don't have a skill. Maybe you haven't spoken to them. Maybe you're just hoping for handouts. So in your example, you leave in the morning, you come back at night, you don't have time, you don't have maybe any money. Do you have a pension that you're paying? Are you part of a Stockvel? Do you tithe to the church? Do you go out on weekends and drink? And if the answers are yes to some of these things, then that's where you need to start with some of the sacrifices. So part of maybe doing godly work is to maybe not tithe to the church, but invest in your future. Part of maybe growing your wealth is sacrificing a few beers. Part of it is the Stockvel that you're in. Is it only for festive? and how much choice are sorted, or are you investing in something?
Peele, you're going to get us in trouble here. You're saying people mustn't tithe.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm saying you're doing godly work. Because if you invest more money for the church, right?
Okay.
All I'm saying is your life is survival. And I'm just saying in that survival are there spaces where you can
Pockets
be like,
of
I've prayed on it, and God says, let me rather take my look tithe this week and maybe buy stock so that I can have more. So that month end when I have profit, I can maybe tithe even more. Black people in rural areas back in the day, and many that I know today, still have this, they have communal livestock. So you'll go to work and everyone else will go to work, but there's a herd boy or a couple of herd boys that look after 50 cows that belong to the community. You know that you and your family have 3 of them. So you don't have to worry. You're gone, but you guys have cows. And they'll tell you when you sell them. That's what Tuntutuko Shezi was doing with livestock wealth. Don't worry about the farm. Don't worry about the livestock. Put in a little bit of money. You'll own a cow. I can even send you pictures of this cow. And when it gets sold, you get the profit. You don't have to stress at all. There's that. The other thing is to what I was saying about cousins and uncles. Find people, whether it's at work or at home, that are busy with some type of entrepreneurial endeavor. And then help them. You've got Ursula. She has an Uber, or Ursula runs a spaza shop. You don't have time for business, but you know your neighbor, Daisama Kota. While you're at work, you've got social media. Take photos of the Kota business. Take pictures of the Uber as an example. Post on your social media. Be like, hey guys, if you're looking for a vehicle, a shuttle service, if you guys would like to order online. And that's how you get involved. Just in those little ways. We sleep on, and this is like a form of fat for time. We sleep on maximizing the time we used to commute. There was a lady, I remember she told me that she'd travel 4 hours a day to and from work. And I told her every 6 days you lose 24 hours. So every 6 days you lose an entire day just to travel. So now the question is, in that 4 hours, what are you doing? Are you listening to audiobooks? Are you tracking stocks? Are you marketing something? And being a middleman is one of the easiest entryways. Today you've got drop shipping. Like I say, if you can write a list of all your friends and their little businesses, you can market those businesses as if they're your own. And when a person comes into your DM, then you send the customer to your person and you just ask for a bit of commission and you build from there. So there are solutions, but we'd have to sit. I consult with people. We sit and we look at what works for you. Even where you work. It could be a call center. It could be a normal company. At that call center, are there security guards? Is there cleaning staff? Do you guys have toilets and toilet paper? Have you ever gone to like whoever's in charge and asked, who supplies your toilet paper? Who supplies the cleaning ladies? Who supplies the security? Because I'd like to get into procurement. Who manages your whatever? I'd like to do that. Some of your friends, some of my biggest loans clients back in the day, I find someone in a call center and they become my agent. There, so people that want loans go through them, they send them to me and then I pay them commission. And it's just that a call. So there's opportunities everywhere if you have the type of culture, but you're not supposed to be doing it alone. There are people that can help you. One of the examples outside of tithing, drinking is, where does your child go to school? Is it possible, like the livestock, to find ukoko in the area that can watch all your kids at once? That's cheaper than you having to pay high fees. And the reason you do that is your child is 3. They don't need to be going to a 5,000 Rand a month creche. They can stay with ukoko, and then that excess money you use to then invest. And maybe my last point is going to be, the greatest investment any person will ever make is in themselves. The highest return you will ever make in your life is in yourself. Whether you're going to study a high demand skill, or you're going to buy books that are going to teach you about business and money, or you're going to a course somewhere. Because once you become valuable yourself, you become the asset. You can invest in a business, you can buy an Uber, there are people sitting on land. There are people that have access to properties. They don't know what to do because they are not assets. Once you are an asset yourself, you don't have to own any properties. That's Airbnb. You don't have to own any vehicles. That's Uber. You don't have to run anything. You don't even have to loan money. You can just be an agent and you make cash. Just because you're like, I've figured out how to find opportunities, how to lower the risk, and how to connect the people that can share the opportunities. Because you're now valuable in that way.
Do you know, even as Peele is talking about becoming creative with how to make money, I'm thinking about, and I don't know if anybody in my complex watches this series, and if you do, you can go tell him. But basically, this man comes into the complex, and I've always been one of the trustees in the complexes, in the complex here. And this man comes in, and first meeting with the trustee, before the trustees, the AGM.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, no, this is what we're doing wrong. And I'm really calling out the chairperson at the time. And this person had been chairperson for like 20 years. And we're all like, hey, don't irritate the white guy. He'll quit. And the guy does quit. And this guy takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And within 2 years, this man has changed our security. He's changed the maintenance of whatever. And he's really coming in hot. Right. And so in my heart, because I know he's got a 9 to 5. And, I know he's just bought one apartment in here.
Yeah.
So in my heart, I'm like, hey, this guy really is putting in a lot of effort for this one apartment investment that he has. I'm not saying one apartment is a lot, but it just felt like he was really putting in a lot. We're always getting emails from him, and he's getting quotes for this, and he's doing this, and he's doing the books for and, he was really doing a lot. And I remember just thinking, I hope that there's return on so much investment, as in him, maybe not money, but in like how much effort he's putting into the space. And can you believe this year, this man pitches, while we're like bidding for a new garden service company. Yeah. He puts his own, and he declares, says, hey guys, this is my own company. Yeah. And I think it can do a better job. There's no one that didn't want it to be him. He set us up. He was on a very long game plan. I think he's been around for about 3 years. And now here it is. It's finally return on investment. It's his company that's doing the garden service of the complex. But I saw it. I said, oh, that's what you call a long game. He gained all our trust. Yes. So just finding these like really like intelligent ways to, and nobody had issue when he took over. It was just like, hey, finally, we've got somebody who's responsible. Like that's how much he really just won. And I kept thinking, why is he doing so much? He had a game plan. He had a game plan. He's been watching, he's been observing. So yeah, just speaking to what's like, looking at these gaps and trying to find gaps and being creative, It's one apartment that costs, whatever it costs. It might not be, but there's more that you can get out of this place, out of this space. And how do I infiltrate? You can imagine his first meeting saying, I want to change garden service. We would be like, hey, hey, cut off feet. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's very like, looking at things like that.
Yeah. There's a thing there in Botswana. I heard Rev Pearl talk about how in Botswana they had been at some time, a place where a lot of people in Botswana had lost a sense of excellence, hard work. So the government did something where they took those words and they made them so basic to a point where even a person who is least educated will understand what this word means, right? And I wondered, because I am still at a place where I would love to, when you're talking about, there's a lot of material, a lot of content and a lot of books that teach on finances and how to use finances. I don't know. You know why, Ne? I agree that those are there and they're accessible. However, I do feel that those books are written from a place of how you can succeed, not how the collective can succeed. And there's a colleague of mine, 2 colleagues of mine who come from families where they just have it as a thing. And I don't know if you guys know any actual people who come from families like that. The family collects money, right? For the purposes of, if anyone has to go to school, if anyone has to get married, if anyone has a funeral, the family does it. It's not a policy. It's the family that decided, guys, we're going to open an account. One of them told me this one day, and we were having a conversation about it, because they're now seeing that they've raised so much money. Now they'd like to see what can we do in order for us to build a business, because we now have collected too much. So there had been no weddings, no one who had to go to school, because a lot of them had gone to school and more people were adding on to that money. I envied them so much, right? And now they'd gotten to a place where they're at like 800,000 Rand. So they're reaching 1 million, right? And this is just the family. Yeah. And now they're starting to have the conversation of, what can we invest in? Who here wants to do this? Who wants to do this? Let's have the conversation and see, which is where they're kind of now having a little bit of different views, because everyone has different views as to which is the most stable idea to invest in. And it got me thinking, Guti, maybe that also is a place for us to start, right? Yeah. And when I was getting to the books, I don't see a lot of people writing books that advise on how you as a family and as a collective can put money together and work together to build wealth, especially coming from our context where we don't have that, right? For the majority of South Africans, we don't have that thing, okay, my brother's gonna go there and work.
I saw it was about to happen.
I'm gonna go there. It didn't spill on the computer.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there and work, and you're gonna go there and work, and then we're all gonna pool together money in so that we grow some pot, and we don't have to keep taking money and putting it in a policy there because we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing. And what's worse is if you stop paying there, the money gets cancelled. You don't get a cent. But if you put into a pool that we have as a family, right? Even if you die, whether you die or you live or you what, the money's still there and it's going to benefit someone. So I wonder if there are books that exist that cover how to do that, how to build that culture into people. The reason I bring Botswana up is they actually have documents in the government, like documents that they have meetings about. There's this one called Botswana Excellence Strategy. This document outlines the government's strategy for economic diversification and sustainable growth, emphasizing the need for culture of hard work and discipline. Imagine, it emphasizes building a culture of hard work and discipline. And then it says it doesn't mention okay, then there's this one, National Mindset Change Campaign, launched in 2023. This campaign aims to encourage citizens to be more creative, efficient, and agile.
Mindset Change Campaign.
That's dope. I've got so many thoughts. I don't know if I'll be able to get through them. If I must just pick one.
Our time is on 0-0, but yeah.
So I must shut it down.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me start here with one point and then I'll try and remember the others. When you speak about a culture of hard work, in Orania, again, they've got their own flag, and on their flag is a boy rolling his sleeves up. Because one of their core things is doing for self. They call it self-doing, self-sustenance. The Black consciousness guys used to be big on this stuff, and we've lost it today. Today, we expect governments to do everything. So I think that's pretty dope. I wanted to finish off with Tubonga by quoting Dr. Miles Monroe, because you were speaking about something where there's I think he was giving a lecture. I don't think he was preaching. Speaking about God doesn't give you what you pray for. He gives you what you can manage. And he speaks about, as an example, you want to start a business, but you have a stove in your house and you've never seen your stove as a factory to bake things and start selling. You want to have a big church, but you're struggling to run like a home cell group. So God doesn't give you what you pray for. He gives you what you can manage. And that's why people who want a lot of money don't get it, because they're struggling to manage just the 10,000 Rand that they have currently. That was the one point I wanted to make. I forgot the point you were saying, man. I wanted to add on to it. I wanted to say financial statements. I made a video on TikTok this week where I was explaining why I don't like investing in the stock market. But this is for me. Other people must. Our financial abilities and our strategies are very different. That's why everyone's meant to learn as much as they can. So you can't say, go study medicine, become a doctor and a surgeon, you'll be rich. It may not work for me. It could work for me to play for Bafana, go play somewhere in England and make pounds. It'll work for someone else to invest in DJing and travel the world. So even with money, you must have different strategies. And my strategy doesn't involve having a share portfolio. The reason I don't believe in investing in shares is smart money people buy enough shares in a company, one flat, to be able to access the board of trustees. Spoke about trust and trustees. That's where the term comes from. Once you access the board, you start influencing. With the little bit of shares that you have, that'll just get you a seat. And then you start influencing people. Last I checked, these are just rough figures. Christo Visa owned, last I checked, I think 15% of ShopRite. But his voting rights there were at 50%. So I have 15% of the shares, which allow me to influence 50% of the decision making. And what a lot of these guys do is once you get into the company, it makes an income. You guys have expenses, and then the profits is where the dividends are meant to come from. These guys exploit the expense lines. So I own a little stake in the company. When people look at me like, but this guy's not getting much dividends. But you don't know that it's mine or my friend or my family's accounting firm that does our books. It's mine or my friends or my family's legal firm that we have on retainer. It's my friends that got the contract for our marketing and they give me a kickback. By the time you get to the profit, whatever, even if no dividend is declared, I'm like, I don't mind. And like, that doesn't make sense. So because I realized that, for me, that's why I don't invest in the stock market. Generally for that. I feel like it's fancy gambling, but that's a very detailed conversation for another day. Given you said something. What is your starting point, Botswana?
A few things. So I said, basically I was getting to the point of Uguti, the books that exist don't cover how to build wealth as a community and as a group of people. Essentially, that's where my point was around, because I'm very curious about the idea of how do you change culture? And by change, I mean, how do you take something that you know is good for your people and then slowly begin to inject it into them? Hence, reference the Botswana. Yeah.
So there are some books. I just don't know any off the top of my head, but there are books that speak on family wealth and how to build family wealth or group wealth. That example you made about the family is one of the things I tried to do with my family. And when I was starting to get big into Stockvels, it's what I wanted. I created a medical Stockvel. I created a spaza shop Stockvel. I think there was a farming Stockvel as well. And I think one of the ideas was a car Stockvel. You get 10 like-minded people. They must be like-minded, because the trust element is like the make or break, even in a family. If you don't trust each other, it's never going to work.
Yeah. Why was Dawa pointing at Boga? Slay Queen pointing at Did you see that?
Okay, I'm sorry. We Dawa.
What's the example?
We Slay Queen. So we Dawa. When we Dawa. So my idea was you take these 10 like-minded people, because that's how you build trust. That's why the whole religion thing, and we go to the same church and we know each other inside out, it's meant to build. And we all cancel our car insurance. And we take that money and we buy an Uber. And that Uber gives us profit every month, which is going to sit in a pool, so that if anyone's car is damaged, if it's written off, you just take from that. And if we're not claiming, then you just keep buying more and more Ubers. And you get to control that. With the medical Stockvel, let me start with the spaza Stockvel. The idea was I created a database of all these spaza shop owners that you guys are going to put, just like the Pakistanis and the Somalians, you're going to put this amount of money, and we're going to take this money and we're going to build one spaza shop for all of us. Carry on with your spaza shop, but this one's going to be fully funded. It's going to be almost free. We can give away bread. We can sell it for 2 cents because we're trying to capture a market. And the more money we get, the more spaza shops we can build that are then at some point, once they start making profit, are going to feed back to us. And once we have enough spazas, then you build a buying group where we can jump the wholesaler and go to the manufacturers, and then we can build our own wholesale. That was going to be the idea. The farming was going to be like livestock wealth, and the medical Stockvel was downgrade your medical aid and then take the excess money and let's put money in a pot, so that when your medical savings is done, you can pull from this thing. If you have a what. If we don't use the money, we start using that money to either supply pharmaceutical goods. If we can grow the money even more, we start giving scholarships to kids to go and study medicine or to become nurses that are going to be loyal to us. Whenever we need them, they give us these services free of charge. And once the money is big enough, like Dr. Ntato, I forget his surname. Then we start building our own clinics and hospitals. And then we end up, that's how almost all of these things are built, by the way. When you do the history of the medical aids and you do the history of the big policy companies and you do, I forget to Dr. Ntato's surname, man. They own hospitals now because they just started with this thing. It was literally what you were saying. But you need to find the right type of people. And to be honest, once you have some credibility, ordinary people will give you money. And you'll become the Discovery or the Old Mutual or the Sanlam of tomorrow. I think those are my last points.
You guys good?
Is it Ntato Motlana?
Yes.
Okay.
Ntato Motlana, yeah. It's got a lighty, man. That is also popular as well. They only Pedlela. It's a big deal, that guy. So, money is not a once-off thing. And that's the other thing people need to understand. You don't go to a workshop and you let it go. If you want to build it into a culture, you must talk about it every day. We speak about football every day. We speak about umjolo every day. We speak about TikTok videos every day. So if you can curate the stuff that you consume and start following certain accounts that just second nature teach you, it changes. The WhatsApp groups you join, the people you chat to, it just automatically becomes a culture.
I also think, you're the guest, but to just add my 2 cents, because it is a conversation. I always reflect on the conversation we had with Tamineta. Around founders, builders, and maintainers.
Maintainers, yes.
Right. And so if you guys haven't seen it, go reflect on that episode. But I do believe that with reforming like cultures around money in the Black community, there is a generation that will need to sacrifice.
Yes.
That will need to be the builders.
The ones who take the low medical aid.
Yes, the low medical. The ones that will say, I might never see this for myself. I might never live in the mansion, but this is for the next generation or the next 2 or 3 generations. And like he speaks in that episode of like understanding who you are in your family, understanding who you are in your community, understanding that if you didn't inherit anything, you need to be a builder. Otherwise, your child has to be a builder. And so they're founders, which are the ones that, accumulate money, builders who are now, investing this money, and then maintainers, those are the ones that are upper echelon of their communities. And it's off the back of many, many years, many, many generations.
Yes.
It's not something that is done in a single generation. So as you're talking and you're saying, all these great ideas using Stockvels, and also being content and being at a place where you're saying, I might never be the one to see this come to fruition. It might not be me who lives in the mansion, but I'm doing this so that my kids or, the generation of people around me, not generation of people around me, the future generations of the people that look like me can live a different life to me.
I hear you. I hear you.
I almost said something controversial, but I'll bite
Please,
my tongue.
no, go for it.
We're out of time.
We are out of time, but I believe given you
it's controversial and it's gonna spoil the chat, so we can shut it down.
We'll cut it out if it's that bad.
Yeah, we'll cut it out.
It's true that behind every great wealth is a great crime.
Oh no, that's well known.
I know we're speaking about saving money and you're not gonna live in the mansion. That's definitely one way. It's generally the way that a lot of immigrants build their wealth. It takes 3 generations for them to start popping. But for other people, they literally look for like the easiest crime to spark everything. And I'm not giving people this advice. No, I am. Sorry. I'm giving people this advice. Where possible, consider the crimes that are available at your disposal. And see if you can work into your...
that part.
Oh, you'll cut out that part.
That part of encouraging. But to say behind a lot of wealth, there's crime. It's true.
It's a detailed conversation, but it is important for people to consider the crime aspect. But I can explain it on another day.
Consider the crime aspect in what? Are you saying people must go bamba inkunzi?
Given you want to say something?
I wouldn't say inkunzi, but no fraud.
I wanted to say, Guti, there is a degree to which I get that. It's much like if a graphic designer or video editor is using a pirated version of whatever software, you're operating in the gray.
100%.
Committing a crime, but you're building something.
Yeah, and
right?
It's for the greater good.
Yes. And the funny thing is, if you hear a lot of, that's the degree to which I understand what you're saying. Like, if you go and look at a lot of the guys who built the companies that are big right now, like they were participating in a lot. In fact, a lot of them even admitted in interviews, they were participating a lot in that gray area, right? The gray area of going into, you're working for a company and you're busy using their resources in order to build whatever it is that you're building. And no one really knows, right? Chigi now they're seeing you on newspapers. They don't even know that you owe them for building the thing that you built.
No facts. But it's a conversation must have. I'm not saying Bambinkunzi. I'm just saying being highly moral, it's going to be very, very difficult. So
absolutely,
lying on an NSFAS application to get that qualification, lying about your credentials to get funding, outside of maybe BEE, which is also touch and go, you actually can't build a big business in this country as a kid that comes from poverty without bribes, partnering with people that are probably criminals, etc., etc. So it's just something to consider, but it's a detailed conversation. It's not to say crime is good. It's almost to say figure out what type of intelligent crime is worth, when you speak sacrifice, is worth sacrificing for the greater. Because that's what colonizers did. That's what some political people have done. And almost everyone we admire today, I can almost point that if they or their forefathers didn't commit crimes, the people that are investing in them have got some crime in the background. So maybe the only crime you'll commit is taking money from dodgy people. And if that's good enough, then sure.
Even when you brought it in, you said something like as simple as brown envelope to get by, whether it's to whatever it is, you know. The truth is sometimes to get that tender, or to get that, maybe tender's got bad connotations to it, but to get that gig.
Not because you're a bad person, because you're actually trying to do the right thing, but
that's
which
just
normal
how the
black
system
person
works.
has got equipment that's worth $1 billion? I don't have, so...
But when you start talking about the types of crime you're talking about, like these are realities. Sometimes it feels impossible to run a small business without, you know, brown envelope. Guys, something as basic as going to Home Affairs. You know, you will stand in the queue the whole day. How's that sort of 50 rand to give someone to make you jump some line? To, you know, that's the, you know, unless you've got the whole day to stand there.
The driver's license.
Driver's license.
It's very rare to get a,
you know,
people even know you to get a pass without having to bribe. You have to go to that particular station.
Yes.
They don't take nonsense there.
Yes. And you know, what's the going rate for a license? You know, and it's scary, but unfortunately, this is, you know, the reality and the truth of the society we live in. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Even though Peele didn't talk about what we wanted him to talk about.
The trauma of business failure. That?
No, not the trauma.
That was the question.
Trauma.
We'll talk about it on another day, man. It's heavy and it touches on a lot, like my personal life and stuff.
Your brother once came here to TCC and he spoke so highly of you.
I appreciate it.
You don't want to speak highly of him before we close?
Because he did speak highly of me?
Yeah.
I think I speak highly of him everywhere else. Like, why must I come here and come do that?
Okay.
My brother and I have got a really good relationship. And one of the things that helps us, maybe this touches on the individual versus community. Both of us put in a lot of self-work individually. So if you're going to be building with like-minded people, as much as we're together, can you also just go graft on your own so that you're valuable here? So I bring him on my platforms. We work together. We speak well of each other because we know the work we put in. And it's that, and we hope to be smolanya and inspiration to other people. It's tough. It's really tough because some of our values clash with me and that guy, but we try to focus on the positive and we try to build where possible.
We're shutting it down. Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
How do we build in spaces where we don't share values? Is it possible?
I was actually, just when you're asking that, I was just about to say, Guti, that's a very important thing to have, to understand that just because you don't share the same values as someone, unless it fundamentally destroys whatever it is that you're trying to build, it is possible. It definitely is possible. You can build with someone, and I suppose maybe you can comment on it, Pen. But for me personally, I do think that it's possible, as long as it's not at a very fundamental level. Like I cannot work with this.
You know, it's interesting that you say, because I've been thinking, we're definitely not talking about relationships, but I'm thinking about, I had a friend who, you know, would often reflect on the relationship she had with her husband. And they had so many differences, but their marriage works because fundamentally they believe in family. And fundamentally at the center of both of them, todo para la familia, family first. Yeah. What's good for the family first
is what goes,
and that's what's, you know, made their marriage a success. But they're so different in religion. They're so different in, you know, one is corrupt, one is not. One drinks, one doesn't. You know, and just seeing how they can be so many, but there's some differences where amongst those differences, if there's one value that, you know, sort of like can hold you guys
together.
We
do it all the time.
And I think that's the same in business and partnership.
Even at work, in the workplace, we were surrounded by so many people who don't believe in the same thing, but we believe in making this organization work or our department work. So we go
put those things aside. Yeah. So just looking at business and making money like that.
I just think, Uti, both parties do need to voice that. For me, when it comes to this, it's a line I'm not willing to cross.
Yeah.
So then it will be a matter of having to decide then, Uti, how do we deal with that? Because my principles and values don't allow me to cross this line. But it's a very, very important thing. And I think a lot of people do get stuck at that. Like, your values differ from mine. Therefore, you and I can't really do much together. Yeah. Can you share? I don't know if you'd want to share on how you guys navigate that.
Me and my brother. Maybe not me and my brother, but to answer your question, you can't build anything if the fundamental values don't align. The problem is we focus so much on airy-fairy values and then we destroy something good.
Yeah.
You vote for Freedom Front Plus, I vote for the EFF. You like Trump, I like Harris, now I'm angry. My kids are going to private school, no, mine are going to public. It's like, what are the cores here? The core, if we align, we can go very far. I hate you, you annoy me, I don't like Zulus, you're loud. Whatever, go jump. But like you say, we both agree on family. We both agree that we must come home and share meals and. So if you can focus on the core, but if those values, the core ones, don't align, you can't build anything. So as an example, with me and my brother, we both believe in family. We both believe in self-development. We both believe in doing good. We both believe in just making the world a better place. We like accumulating information. We like sharing it with people. And we try to be sensitive with each other, even where we don't understand. And that helps. And there are things to be honest about and things to not discuss at all. We don't have to discuss your Islamic faith and you're going to mosque again. We don't need to discuss that. But we can discuss something like, I need those reports because I need to submit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I look bad. So can we focus on the core? We spend too much time focusing. So I'll say this, we spend too much time arguing with people we don't share values with than building with people that do. We spend too much time focusing on values we don't align on than the values that we do. And if we could do that, I think we'd be able to get very far.
That was... Penyo, thank you.
Itara.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for hanging
Shaplapo,
out with us.
Siyabangena, danko.
Shaplapo. And Sispi, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also reflect on the previous episodes that we discussed and we touched on. That was today's episode of The Conversation Capital. For now, though, goodbye and good.